Welcome to Scorched Earth and a general reading for the sign of Taurus, Sun, Moon or Ascendant, get the card straight, for the month of September 2025. I hope you are well. I'm using the Tower of the Divine for you today. Before we begin, if the reading resonates with you and you would like to go a little bit deeper, there will be an extended that is available at the end. That's via, I think, the first link in the description box. You're looking for the link that takes you either to Selfie, or alternatively, you can come over to Circle, which is a much bigger experience. There you get extended content, all of the extended content for no extra cost beyond the membership fee. You get to hang out with an extraordinary group of people and, both sort of text-based and in the reels as well, because we run classes over there. So we do, as far as is humanly possible, actually check in physically with each other, obviously not in the same physical space, in the same digital space, and that's very cool. The classes are on all sorts of modalities, so if it sounds like it might be of interest to you, you know what to do with that link, Taurus. Right. Let's have a look. I've got a messy table here, haven't I? Let's just shift all of this stuff out of the way. This is my little puzzler monument on my desk here. So let's have a look and see what's going on with you. Could I have 3 cards for Taurus, please? What is Taurus? What's going on with Taurus? So we have the first card. It is death in your recent past. What about current energy, please, for Taurus? Wow, that flipped out. We have the 7 of Swords. And what about what's coming towards Taurus, please, for September? We've got the 2 of Cups reversed, which is interesting. And we've got it here with the Page of Wands. So whenever the 2 of Wands shows up in reverse, what we have is naturally a breakdown of some sort of relationship, right? When it's in the upright like this. There's my little lamp. I'll move that. Move my water. What we've got is union, is harmony, is 2 people coming together, and this isn't always in romantic relationship or anything like that. I mean, sometimes it could be business partnerships. It could be talking about you and your bestie, whoever that is. So when we've got it showing up in the reverse, what we've got is a pulling apart. Now, I don't think with this Page of Wands at the bottom of the deck that this is necessarily something that is going to lead to deep and intensive grieving for you. It feels like a recognition of a relationship that's done, and the recognition of the relationship that's done seems to be having its initiation over here in the death card, because the death card's all about transformation, right? It's not, sometimes it can be, but it's very rarely about actual physical death. What we've got is a change of state happening. And because I think the death card is much more related to the concept of ego death or an ego transformation, what we've got is a kind of uplifting consciousness that happens where we recognize certain aspects of our life that we've grown out of it, right? It's no longer in alignment in the way that it was. And so what seems to have started over here for you, Taurus, seems to be moving to its natural conclusion over here. And like I said, I don't feel a deep sense of grief about the moving away from this. It feels very much like it's a logical next step on the path forward. So let's just get some clarifiers out on the table and we'll dig into this a little bit more deeply. Tell me about death. Why is death here? Knight of Wands is in the reverse. We have the Page of Wands showing up again, and we have the 7 of Cups. Tell me about the 7 of Swords, please. Well, that's quite interesting in and of itself. Look at the 2 cards that have flipped here in the deck, both fire energy. We've got the Sun representing Leo, and we've got the Emperor representing Aries. But we also have, encapsulated within this card the idea of freedom, liberation, a certain childlike wonder about the world. I mean, the Sun card is the representation of someone who is emerging from an underworld journey, right? It's the part where the sun starts to shine again. We come out from the underworld, we are reborn, we are renewed, we are innocent, vibrant and alive again. So it's interesting that death should have been showing up here, and then we've got the sun, both at opposite ends of the spectrum, if you will. But the Emperor card is about structure and order and discipline and control and you know, strategic thinking sometimes. It's definitely about being in charge of oneself. Now, I'm not going to take them because they didn't jump, but I think it's interesting that they're showing up for you in this moment, because it lends a lot of credibility to the feeling that I had initially, which was that this was not something that felt heavy to you. In fact, quite the reverse. It feels like something that's lightening the load for you somewhat. So tell me about Seven of Swords. We have the Magician showing up down here. Super card there. Tell me about Seven of Swords. And we have the Page of Cups. Tell me about Two of Cups, please. Ooh, more sideways cards. We've got the Eight of Cups and the Six of Cups. Holy shit. So this is really focusing this around relationships here for you this month. Now, let me tidy these up so you can see them a little better here. Now, before we get to them, I feel like we need to talk about the way that I see sideways cards. I'm sure some internet expert will jump on and tell me that it's impossible to read sideways cards. I feel like that's par for the course nowadays. However, in my opinion, and this is my channel, you can read them sideways. And for me, they have very distinct meanings, which is to say, they either represent an energy that is on the move and we've kind of caught it just at a point where it's flipping either between reversed or upright. Or, and this is the way that I tend to see it most often, these are energies that are present but not yet either activated or, as the case may be, deactivated, actually. Which then suggests that there are decisions to be made, there are movements to make that will solidify that one way or the other, right? Activate it, deactivate it, whatever it is, okay? So that's the way that I see those. And like I said, there's nothing here that suggests to me any kind of feeling of grief, devastation, a sense of loss, a feeling of anything other than this is absolutely the right thing to do on this next step of my journey, and a corresponding lightness of spirit that seems to be accompanying it. Now we've got the Page of Wands and the Three of Wands showing up at the bottom of the reading here, which are both talking about in their own ways perhaps a divergence from a path that you have been on. You know, the Page of Wands I often say is the planning, is the preparation for some sort of movement. I use the example quite often, particularly in relation to the Knight of Wands, that if the Knight of Wands was the act of literally leaving your house to go on holiday, right? You're getting in the car, you're driving to the airport, you're getting on the plane, all that sort of thing. Then the Page of Wands is literally everything that occurred on the run up to that. So it would be booking the holiday in the first place, working out where you want to go, buying your sun cream, buying your, you know, your beach outfit, whatever it is. But sometimes there's a gap. There's a span of time between what you're planning and the moment where it actually starts to move forwards. Now, interestingly, bearing in mind what I've said about the Page of Wands there, here with the Three of Wands, we have a card that speaks specifically to movement, right? If the Two of Wands, which is the card that precedes the Three, obviously, is that crossroads, we're making some sort of decision, then the Three of Wands is where we actually start walking on the path. We're actually going this way. So we can see here that actually over the course of September and probably 6 weeks back or so from here, right, what we've got is a situation that is reflecting some sort of change in your consciousness, a change in the way that you see reality, and a change in the way that you see yourself, that is leading inexorably to a decision that has you moving in a different direction. And almost everything that's happening is about the preparation for that movement here, because it's happening in the Three. Effectively, Taurus, you're speed running this energy, which is unusual for Taurus, right? Because you like to do things slowly, you like to do things methodically, and to some extent, actually, to be fair, I'm just thinking back to the meditation that I did before I started your reading, where I was connecting to your energy, and there was one thing. I don't always see things. Sometimes I hear things. Sometimes I feel things. Sometimes, whatever. It was the heartbeat. It was the thump of a heartbeat, which is slow. It is methodical, but it doesn't mean necessarily that what's happening outside looks like sitting still. When you get to a point of fitness, like, you can move around and your heart rate doesn't deviate that much, right? And you've gone through 7 years of Uranian almost like electrocution, right? So you got to the point where actually spiritually you are well exercised. And I think there are things that are happening here that you have built up a tolerance to, you have conditioned yourself to. And part of that is change. Part of that is picking a different direction rather than the path that seemed to stretch out in front of you for the longest time. So whilst on the surface it may appear that you are speed running this, you're not actually breaking a sweat at all, Taurus, because your internal space isn't coming across anything that is feeling like a heightened pulse would be the right response. There's nothing here that seems to be activating your nervous system. There's nothing here that seems to be activating like a fight or flight thing with you either. It's kind of like, no, I know exactly what I'm doing and exactly where I'm going. I'm going to do these things. I'm going to do it very, very calmly. And although that may be discombobulating for other people outside, like, it's perfectly in alignment with the way that your energy is showing up nowadays, Taurus, right? So let's start over here with the Death card. Let me get my little fiddlestick. And like I was saying at the beginning, like, what we're dealing with the Death card is a transition. It's a transformation of something from one state into another. For you, it seems to be like an initiation, a catalyst of the energy. I could well be speaking to just sort of a reflection of what has changed within you recently. We notice that we've got the Knight of Wands showing up here, and the Page of Wands, and the Seven of Cups. And I think there's something actually extraordinarily delightful about this combination of cards here for you. Because what we don't have is a sense of you sort of careering around and being reckless, which is not something that Taurus would sit well with Taurus, right? We're not using up energy for the sake of it. We're not, careering from one crisis to another. And I think probably you had enough of that while Uranus was in your sign, right? But we do have this preparation. It's like death initiated something here. Now, whether you can point to something that has specifically ended, which is possible for some of you, or whether you are recognizing that you yourself are changing. Not fully changed, but changing. And what used to hold you back, actually, it doesn't feel like you're prepared to allow yourself to be held back in that way anymore. It's almost like you've pulled back the curtain on death. You've seen what sits behind it, a bit like the Wizard of Oz, right? And you've lost no reverence for the changing process. Oh, you've lost the fear of the changing process, and perhaps developed a reverence for the changing process. It's like everything that is you now is oriented towards the possibility that it's all right for you to change. Nothing is lost in this process. And feelings of perhaps guilt or shame or resistance to the act of change, they don't apply in the same way that they used to anymore. So we're not being hot-headed, we're not being reactive, we're not bolting at the first sight of change, which you might have done 10 years ago. But instead you seem to be working with it, embracing it, even though you don't know necessarily where this is taking you. And I think that's really important. Because what that says to me, Taurus, is that you are prepared to move without a net. Now, if Uranus in your sign did anything, maybe it showed you how how useless your safety net actually was. That's possible. But I think more likely what it's doing is showing you that you are big enough, you are strong enough, you are capable enough, you are resourceful enough to be able to stick to some sort of plan, but definitely expand the way that you engage with your plan. There's a lot of running on faith here, Taurus, because it's okay for you to do so, because you know whatever comes up, you're going to deal with it. Like, how could you not deal with it? Look at what you've dealt with in the last 8 years. 7 years, let's be more specific. 7 years. The King of Pentacles specifically, which is your king in the minor arcana, has a very clear vision of where he's going. In fact, the way that I've described the King of Pentacles before is that he retro engineers the steps. He sees where he wants to be, retro engineers the steps so he can work out how to build his way to there. Now there's a certain kind of fixed temperament for whom that kind of activity would be necessary, right? So you've got to be kind of visionary, but you've also got to be able to break it down into its component parts such that it creates a map that you are able to follow. And then you get from A to Z, Z, whatever you are doing, and you know, with delayed gratification, with solid, consistent work, you get to where you want to go. But we're in 2025, and the rules of how things happen have changed. You yourself have changed. I mean, undergoing a dramatic transformation over the last 8 years, which is by no means complete. And I think, like I said, I feel like you've lost the fear so much around that state of development, rather than having a cast iron result that you are looking for, or a cast iron sense of security that you are looking for. The Seven of Cups is sometimes it can be illusion and delusion, right? But at its core, I feel like it's not knowing quite what we feel, where we're going, you know, what we feel about where we're going, and the level of security that we feel while we're walking that path. Now, it is a 7, and the 7s are about the pursuit of the truth. It is also about problem solving and all sorts of things here, right? But this Page of Wands is saying, well, I'm preparing for a future and I don't really know what the future is, other than I need to step forward and meet it. And having pulled aside the curtain and seen what there is behind it, like, I have a reverence for that process. And do you know what underpins it, which is really interesting? Scorpio. Oh, there's the thing. The Death card is Scorpio in the major arcana. I was actually just thinking about the Taurus-Scorpio dynamic. I've completely forgotten what I was going to say. Oh, this is a Scorpio card as well. There's something strategic which is a bit more Scorpio-like than it is Taurus-like. Which is to say, you seem to be moving more quietly. I don't know. I'm not quite sure how to express what it is that I'm feeling here. Oh. There's an underpinning of self-worth here, Taurus, that I'm not sure I've seen before from you. And it's not flashy, it's not ego-driven, it's not being broadcast for the world to see. It's like, it's not faith, it's knowledge. Right? You see your own value. You see your own competencies. Like, the insecurities that used to exist don't seem to be there anymore. And what seems to be more Scorpio-like, and what is Scorpio influencing your energy here, feels like you are much happier to move quietly, to move through the dark places, because of the absolute certainty that you will emerge back into the light. I don't think you've ever had that before. I mean, to be fair, I don't know if Scorpio has that as a thing, right? But it's all of these energies together. It's like, okay, well, it might be hard soon, that's fine, because like it'll be sound, and maybe there might be challenges, but again, that sound, it's not a problem, because I'll just deal with them as they come up. And you're doing it all without necessarily knowing where it is that you're going to end up. Well, I would imagine actually quite unsure where it is that you're going to end up. And there is no fear. It feels more like curiosity. Now, when we get to your current energy, this is very interesting, because we have the Seven of Swords, which is an Aquarius card, interestingly. And we have the Magician, which is, you can see it as Virgo or you can see it as Gemini. But the important part of this card is it's ruled by Mercury. So what we've got here is double air, effectively, on the table, with the Page of Cups on its side. Now, I feel like the Seven of Swords and the Magician work very, very well here together, accompanying each other as air sign energy. Because with the Magician, which is very, very strong, because it's, it's major arcana energy, we've got energy of manifestation, we've got energy of creation, and it's very active and it's very will driven, right, as opposed to kind of passive manifestation and all those sorts of things that we talk about other times, right? So we've got something being created, but the important part of it is it's being applied, it's being manifested by way of application of your will to something. Now, the will is not to the end result. The will is to the process itself. And what do I mean? Right. Well, notice that we've got the Page of Cups on its side here. And remember what I said about it being an energy that was present but not yet activated. To some extent, like, because you are so much surer of yourself than you have been before, the emotional stuff that used to be the way that you made decisions, or it would govern the reactions that you had to things, it's less important now. It actually plays considerably less of a role than it used to. And what I feel is that you are thinking much more strategically and much more clearly than you ever have done before. All right, where the emotional stuff and the activation of your nervous system would be like, oh, I can't do that, or I won't do that. You feel to me to be very, very open to whatever comes along. I would go as far as to say, potentially, beginning to move towards the opportunistic, in so much as if something comes along, and because you're thinking about it clearly, you can, follow through what the potential may be of this thing. You are quite willing to take risks where you have not before. It's not a gamble, though. That's the difference, and that's where this self-worth, this self-reliance, all of these self-words are coming into play. You don't feel to me like you're playing small anymore, but in the not playing small, it's still not necessarily pitching itself at any great end thing. It's committing to the process of death and rebirth over and over again. Endings and beginnings for sure. while simultaneously being in this state of very conscious, almost intellectual realization that you do quite literally create your own reality. So the Page of Cups is here not because he's not being used, but because as things stand at the moment, there's no bit of your emotional state that's being tested. There's no bit of your emotional state that's requiring a big transformation in the face of it. It's kind of like, oh no, all right. The way that I've sorted out my emotions up until this point is enough to see me through this next bit. And you trust yourself to do that. Now, I think as part of the process of creating space, which is something that the Death card does, when we create space within ourselves, there is usually a relatively swiftly coming in some sort of change that reflects that outwardly. So we may feel like, for example, a particular relationship has come to an end. We've come to the end of the line in the job that we're in, or maybe we're sick of living somewhere where it rains all the time, and actually we're going to go and find somewhere that's got better weather, right? I'm just throwing up kind of examples so you can see what I'm thinking about. Well, that's exactly the space that would need to be created in the psyche for you to action what needs to action in order for that to happen in the way that follows, right? And there you become someone who is creating their own reality, willing to take the risk to move away from what was in favour of what could be, even though we don't know necessarily what it will be. Page of Cups is there because you can draw on him if you need to, but as things stand, it's not necessary because you seem to have everything that you need at this point. Your emotions are not intruding on your assessment of what is required next as part of your reverence for this death process. So then when we come into September, we've got the Two of Cups reversed, we've got the Eight of Cups on its side, and we've got the Six of Cups on its side. And what's interesting about this is there's a kind of stasis, and I think it's brief, around this whole set of cards here. Why do I say that? Right, well, because this is breaking down, this is breaking apart. But we don't have these cards in the upright representing, what was versus what we're prepared to go and see. What we're prepared to put down in favour of what may well represent our Nine Cups, which is our actual highest hopes, goals, dreams and aspirations, right? Both of these cards have appeared on their side. And so that says that there's some sort of intervention of will, I think, that is going to need to be employed to free you up to go in the direction that you want. Because ultimately, these cards being in the upright would be great. What would be even better would be if the Six of Cups was reversed, because that would be a really emphatic energy of moving forwards. The Six of Cups is the past. It is our emotional connections to the past. The Eight of Cups is the act of leaving behind the emotional baggage when we recognize that some sort of situation is now no longer in our highest good, right? And that could be, it doesn't have to be things like relationships, it can be all sorts of things. I think the Eight of Cups is interesting because it can talk about the sort of emotional baggage that we've been carrying around for fucking decades, right? And we can move across the world from the place where traumatic things happened and still carry the residual emotional damage of that around for decades afterwards. And sometimes the Eight of Cups is simply I don't need to carry that anymore, I can put that down, But I think because of the Page of Wands showing up twice, because of the Death card, because of the Three of Wands, and even the Seven of Swords and the Magician card here, I feel like there is a very specific forward motion that is happening on the breakdown of this relationship, whatever it is. Now, this could be, between you and a friend, you and a boyfriend, girlfriend, spouse. It could be a business partner. It could be the realization that you've been working alongside someone for the longest time, but like your view for the where you would like things to go doesn't align anymore. You know, maybe the other person is wanting to play small and you're wanting to go big. And there's something fundamentally incompatible about the way that you then, as a result, will choose to move forward. But it absolutely could be a major relationship, like a spousal one or whatever. So let's have a look and see what this Six of Cups and Eight of Cups, what the issue is here. We've got a whole fuck ton of cards, right? Let's have a look. We've got the Nine of Swords, the Eight of Pentacles, the Ten of Wands, and the Nine of Wands. Right. Now, I don't want to describe this as a test, but we do know that when we've learned something significant, the universe tends to throw, or God, Source, Creator, or whatever terminology you want to use, it tends to throw something at us that is the same lesson that we have just mastered, but in disguise. Right? It's got a mac on and it's got a funny hat and maybe, you know, a little comedy fake moustache or something like that. But it's essentially exactly the same thing that we, to some extent, have just rejected. Don't want a part of that anymore. And I wonder if the relationship that is breaking down, this parting of ways that is happening here this month for you, Taurus, is the recognition that this represents something that you've been trying to leave behind, right? We see the Eight of Pentacles there, a card that represents mastery, your great work. Now, you are your great work, Taurus. It's not the things that you create. It's not the things that you build. It's you as a human being and the innate worth that you hold, which we've already established seems to be something that you are getting a handle on. Now, if the universal God, Source, Creator, was wanting to look at where you go next and just double check that you truly have mastered the lessons that you've been given recently, it seems to me that it's entirely likely that some sort of situation would raise its head whereby there is the distinct possibility that the same problem wearing new clothes would show its face. I feel like there's a relationship that you are looking at differently in September, because there's what you thought it was, and there is now, from this more evolved perspective, issues that you see that you did not see before. We've got a Ten of Wands, which is a representation of an end. I don't think that the end is necessarily in the relationship. That's already been talked about with the Two of Cups, with the presence of the Two of Cups. This Ten of Wands is, can you recognize in your environment when something is too fucking hard, too fucking much, and work out why, how it's been allowed to continue for such a long time. Because I feel like this Six of Cups tells us that there's a possibility of you re-entering a cycle that you've actually just tried really hard to shake off, right? You changed. You have changed. To what degree has everything changed, right? The Six of Cups would speak to that past cycle that you've been in. The Eight of Cups would speak to the possibility that exists for you this month to choose to walk away voluntarily from something that you recognize is an energy drain that does not give you anything, that it doesn't matter how much you put into this situation, there's never going to be an even playing field with it. Nine of Swords and Nine of Wands would say that there's a huge boundary issue that's been at play in this relationship. And the Nine of Swords would say this is something historically that you would have spiraled about. You would have found a way to make this your fault. So then the shining light of everything that is coming up for you in September is the Eight of Pentacles. It's about the way that you have mastered what it is that you've been working on yourself, right? Have you done it to the extent that you can now use that as your point of power to walk away from that which would alternatively keep you looping around in the same cycle with the same lesson? Oh, look at that. It is the surprise Two of Wands that you didn't see coming. Now remember, we already referenced the Two of Wands. We were talking about that crossroads energy. I think so far, you know, you've been walking a path of self-improvement. You've been doing what needed to be done. You've been improving your self-worth. You improving your confidence, getting to a place of trust in self, right? Mastering all of the lessons, in fact, that the Eight of Pentacles is talking about. But here is a bit of a sticking point. And I think it's more important than you would give it credit for, in recognizing that you can choose to tolerate that same kind of behavior again, excuse it, do whatever, and then, you know, loop in the same cycle. Or you are at a point where the other road is the one that takes you towards what it is you've been preparing for over here. I mean, for some of you, it could quite literally be travel, which is interesting. It could be thinking about moving, and I would imagine if that were true, it would be moving over quite a fair distance. Got this dude up on the hillside looking out across the horizon. There's a real put your money where your mouth is here, Taurus. There aren't many Tauruses that I've ever come across who, once they've understood something, don't make that part of their... what's the word that you would use? That don't hold it front and centre as part of their core principles in terms of their integrity and the way that they deal with the world. There's something kind of agitating about the way that this energy shows up initially in September, but by the same token, because it is so easily revealed to be like Scooby-Doo, right? The baddie wearing some sort of fucking rubber mask, or, you know, something in a comedy hat, sunglasses with a fake moustache. It's so easy to see through. I feel like you're just kind of stepping over it and going, well, this is done. I'm done here. And that's fine. And honest to God, Taurus, I don't see you looking back. It's just very, very unusual for you. There's no second guessing here. There's no anything. Or at least there's the possibility of that. Because like I said, if you fall into making excuses for people this month, and I think that ultimately would be what it would boil down to, making excuses, giving people a lot of leeway where they don't necessarily deserve it. There's a chance that you'll end up back on the slippery slope needing to relearn this again. And you'd relearn it faster, because we do tend to speed up with these things. But I think so much in you has changed. So much of you is ready for the future. I don't think that you're going to allow a relationship such as this, which is proven to be problematic on quite a scale when you really sit with it. I don't think you're going to allow it to hold you back, because there is some sort of intuition that you have that everything that is being put in front of you right now is so laden with meaning. It's so laden with importance that you're paying attention to it all. You are, it seems to me, incorporating on every level everything that you have learned. This is why the heart rate isn't raising. It's because here is an opportunity for you to apply what you know. Apply it comprehensively. And just move forwards. And it's the same way you seem to be approaching everything at the moment, Taurus. Even though you don't know where you're going, and historically this would have had you spiralling. This is absolutely fascinating. So from here, the way that this shows up may well be different for each of you. But the thing that I want you to pay attention to is that the Eight of Pentacles and the Eight of Cups are working in tandem with you this month. You know, there's a a couple of eclipses that are happening this month. Interesting. Where we have endings and new beginnings being augured. And I would say whatever is closing out, it's like, let it. But I almost don't feel like I need to tell you that, Taurus, because you kind of look down and you're like, all right, okay, well, that doesn't do it anymore. Now I'm just going to step over that, excuse me, and off forwards. And double eights is about power. Reclamation of power that comes from you leaving behind what is no longer for you, utilising the principles and the things that you have mastered hitherto. That's what puts you on this track. And it's the surprise crossroads that you find yourself at. I think you might not see it coming, but I think you'll recognise it for what it is as soon as it shows up. Fascinating. Lean into the endings. And quite literally, like this dude in the Eight of Cups here, no need to look back. I don't think you will anyway, Taurus. Right, I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to go to the extended now. You're very welcome to join me if you would like to do so. You can do that on Selfie, you can do that on Circle. I would be delighted to see you in either place. If that's not for you, no shade, no problem at all. Just remember what I've said about the way that this month plays out. And I have to say, like, I feel like I've been saying it every time I've seen you for about 5 years now, Taurus, but I am really proud of you. Like, just look how far you've come. And for your heart rate to be holding steady in the face of all of this chaos that's going on at the moment, that shit's inspirational, you know? It really is. All right. Know that I love you all very, very much, and I'll see you soon.